What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Altitude Show. I'm your host, Dave Brinker. Today we have a special guest, Dan Staton, aka Dan the Man, aka Elk Shape. Dan is a renowned elk hunter, fitness coach, public land guru. He's been dedicated to this cause for years and years at this point. He has a bachelor's degree in exercise science, a master's in exercise physiology. He's a grinder in life and in the mountains. I don't know very many people that work harder or, frankly, that are more shredded than this dude. Join us as we talk about how I rock a dad bod proudly, how to stay disciplined, turning your side hustle into a full-time business, the reasons behind why humans hunt, and much, much more. It was a great conversation. I hope you enjoy it. Check it out. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Altitude Show, where you can watch all of the interviews completely on the YouTube channel. Subscribe now. Thanks, guys. See ya. Outdoor Class is the new source of premium outdoor education from trusted and knowledgeable experts. For hunters committed to improving their skills, Outdoor Class is the only subscription-based e-learning platform that provides unlimited access to video lessons from the world's most respected experts. Learn from industry leaders like Corey Jacobson, Randy Newberg, Remy Warren, and other experts across all the topics that affect you as a hunter. Make sure to follow Outdoor Class Official on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and take your game to the next level by going to outdoorclass.com. You can use code ALTITUDE at checkout for 20% off. That is ALTITUDE at checkout for 20% off at outdoorclass.com. Dan Staton, what's up, brother?
You are what's up, man.
I mean, your biceps are what's up, man. Look at those things. They're just protruding out of your sweatshirt because all that working out you do. And me, I'm over here with love handles and, a dad belly.
You got a dad bod?
Oh, dude, I got a dad bod. And I'm glad they're in right now because I'm killing it on the dad bod front. You know, it's funny. I was talking to my best friend this morning, and you'll just laugh. You'll be like, dude, that's not true. But I was telling him, like, it seems like no matter what I do, exercise-wise, the love handles, they just don't go away. It doesn't matter what I do. Now, you're going to say, well, you're not working hard enough. And that's probably true also. And that's actually the conclusion that me and my friend came to, is maybe we're not getting out of our comfort zone enough. But, dude, I did that 75 hard program here a couple months ago just to see if I could do it. And my Achilles heel is beer.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't love lifting weights. I prefer cardio. I get enjoyment out of cardio. Anyways, long story short, I like changed my diet. I didn't drink. I did all the things, right? Dude, at the end, my dad bod looked exactly the same as it did at the beginning. So I'm like, maybe I'm just, 41 and maybe I shouldn't worry about it anymore.
Definitely. The 75 hard, first off, is such a cool thing. I've seen a lot of people do it, and I love that it's not just a box to check on working out. Like that, from what I can understand, or at least my understanding is, there's more to it. Like 2 workouts a day. One's got to be outside, and you need to read. Like, and it can't be an iPad. It's got to be an actual book, 10 page, like really good stuff that is just making you be more disciplined and more intentional, which I appreciate. But to your point, I have a question is, what about after like a super long elk bender is what I call it? Do you not come home like just leaner and meaner after elk hunting for a month?
I'm glad you said that. It's a perfect segue, because the reason I started doing 75 hard, at the end of elk season, I was fishing on a lake with my dad, and someone took a video of it, and it was hot that day, so I had my shirt off. And I was feeling good. Like, it was the end of elk season. I felt like I was in good shape. But I watched the video, and I'm like, dude, I look like hell. Are those my love handles? That can't be me. So the answer is no. I don't know if it's just my body, like the way my body is, like the way it's shaped. Because I've seen, like, I watch UFC a lot, and there's some of those guys always have love hands, like at least little ones. And I know they're like killing themselves for 2 months prior to those fights, right? So I'm like, well, maybe it's just a body type. Maybe my body's not made to be like super shredded. Maybe that's just a lame excuse too.
Well, we don't decide where fat gets stored. I mean, that's in your genetic code that decide but we as guys, generally speaking, we don't store fat like women disperse fat. They're made to carry children.
Yeah.
And so it's not uncommon for women to have 10% plus body fat than us when you compare apples to oranges. And I think they disperse their fat where they store. And some dudes store fat in their legs and store fat in their arms. And then there's the majority of us guys where we just store fat at the spare tire, majority. And so you can't decide where your beta fat cells are, but ultimately, if you feel good and you're performing well, who cares?
Right. I mean, and that's the point. Like my buddy and I were talking this morning. It's like, what do I care? Would my wife love me anymore if I had a shredded six pack? I mean, she probably wouldn't hate it, but it's not like I'm going to the beach trying to, pick up chicks. It's like, but I've also never had one, even when I was younger and I was like pretty skinny. Like I look at pictures of myself when I was in my mid 20s and I just started at Sitka, like down in California. I'm like, dude, I would never say that I've been wildly out of shape ever. Like I eat pretty healthy. I go through phases with exercise, but I pretty much always am exercising in some way, shape, or like right now I'm on a stationary bike kick. I love my bike because it's low impact I have a bad lower back. I'm on a kick of that. Like, whereas, a few months ago I was on a running kick. I'm always doing something. But at the same time, I've never been shredded no matter what I do. And I just start to wonder, it's like, and I have buddies that can sit around and drink beer and never work out and eat McDonald's. And they're like shredded, like Gladiator.
Well, I don't know, man. I think, selfishly, I feel like, man, if I had Dave Brinker, under my watch for 3 months,
you could make it happen.
I could make that happen for you. You're not going to like it, but we could make that happen for you. I don't know if the price tag, it would be worth it. But the intensity component of your workouts, and I don't want to get into fitness, but it is.
I would love to. We could talk about fitness because everybody needs fitness, man. Everybody.
They do. I believe in higher intensity bouts.
Okay.
Are more worthwhile at a neuroendocrine level. What did he just say? At your nervous system and your hormone systems will benefit greatly from shorter duration, higher intensity. You can't have both. Intensity and volume can't go up. One's got to go down, inversely related. So I certainly don't work out for very long. I go, sometimes I'll run 5-6 miles. And I enjoy that more. I enjoy trail running, but I don't do it as often. I'm pretty good at it. I try to spend more time on those shorter power output, bursty, very intense, a lot of work in a short amount of time, a lot of discomfort. And those seem to give me the best results with that neuroendocrine response, where the hormones, the good ones, the IGFs, the testosterone, that kind of stuff goes up. Those tell cells, don't store fat. Those tell other muscle cells, hey, pack in some good stuff, build the muscle up. And so if you were want to dabble in some higher intensity stuff, it might be worthwhile.
So when you say intensity goes up, volume goes down, you mean, when you say volume, do you mean the number of times you're working out, or the volume? What does volume stand for?
So volume stands for duration of the workout. It could be the repetitions. It could be the frequency.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But when I am talking about volume, I'm mainly talking about the differences between an hour of steady state cardio on a treadmill, walking at a certain heart rate and keeping it pretty low. That's a low intensity, longer duration, longer, volume versus to in simple terms, hey, power clean your body weight 30 reps as fast as you can. And it may only take you 2 minutes. And if I really got you, put a gun to your head and said, you literally have to do this in under 2 minutes, you could probably do it if you had to, but you would lay on the floor for 20 minutes afterwards, probably suffocating, going, what just happened? Very uncomfortable. but you've triggered a really incredible response, and the results will come afterwards. So intensity brings about results, and results is kind of that black box, pull out of it whatever you have. Maybe for you, it's smaller love handles or more energy or more strength or power, endurance, whatever it is you want to get out, whatever results are to you, it's about what you put in. And so I still love my long, slow distance type stuff, but the intensity pieces still to this age are what seem to give me more bang for my buck and reward that hormone system. And everything that I've found.
How long is an average workout for you?
Yesterday, I did 2 workouts. Each were 10 minutes long. I worked out for 20 minutes. That doesn't include warm up and cool down, but the actual working time was 20 minutes total.
See, I would like that. What I don't like, there's 2 things I don't like. I don't like high intensity workouts that last 45 minutes, like what you're talking about. And I also don't like really boring workouts that last forever, because I just don't have like when I used to lift weights, before you have kids and you're like hanging out at the gym, you'll go do a set and then you go bullshit with the guy next door. Then you go you're there like 2 hours. I can't do that anymore. My workouts got to be like, I got to have a program. That's kind of why I like this bike, because I'll be like, all right, I got 30 minutes. So I get on there, I choose a 30-minute ride, whatever the hardest 30-minute ride I can find is, and boom, I know I'm done. And I actually feel like I accomplished something because somebody led me through a program, right? Whether, it's probably not doing everything that I want it to do for me. I need to supplement it with other things. But what you just described, I don't mind that. Like that actually sounds appetizing to me.
I'm in the same boat. I just purchased a program to follow. I did not want to follow my own programming. I'm very biased. I'll write up all the shit I'm good at, all the stuff I like. And then when I have a stranger program for me, they don't know my strengths and weaknesses. And so inevitably, a lot more weaknesses get addressed. And you're right. Like, it's nice to just know. I knew I had 35 minutes yesterday. And so I knew I had to get in, get out, could not. And all my workouts for the last 15 years have been managed by a clock, like an actual clock on the wall in my gym. And it's just a way to structure it to where this is what you have, be efficient with your time. And since I've gone into business for myself with Elk Shape just a couple years ago, I've never been busier, Dave. Like, I've never been busier. So right. Like I feel the value of structured time in a gym. And I think if you don't have a clock managing you, it could get sloppy.
What's your diet look like?
I eat almost the same thing every day, which is super boring. But for me, working from home, you'd think, gosh, you can eat whenever you want. I actually have to remember to eat because I get so into what I'm doing. All I do is create content, digital media, nonstop, from podcasts to YouTubes to reels to images. And I just hear where you're looking at. This is my workstation. And I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't ate. So the last thing I just had was before we got on the podcast, I had a cup of blueberries frozen, blended with 2 or 3 cups of spinach, a couple scoops of protein powder, and then a tablespoon of almond butter with almond milk. And I mix it up and I drink my lunch. I do that almost every day. Prior to that was oatmeal and eggs almost every day, like a religion. It's just super easy. If I'm getting bored, I'll make protein pancakes. And then I'll have something pre-workout-ish, like a fruit leather or something right before I go out to the gym. Post-workout, I do a scoop of, it's made by a wilderness athlete. It's called Brute post-workout. And it's just basically carbs, fats, and a creatine mix. And then dinner, which is, surprise, usually elk and veggies and a lot of elk meat.
What's your carb intake? I mean, so far you've mentioned no carbs.
Oatmeal, blueberries.
Oh, yeah.
That fruit leather. And then I can have steamed veggies and a salad. And then they'll usually be, if we're going to do a carb, it's usually a pretty clean one, such as like yams, sweet potato,
but you stay away from pasta?
I love pasta. I bet we have, probably every other week we'll have elk spaghetti of some sort.
Yep.
So I'm not freaked out about carbohydrates. I do pretty well with them. But if I looked at my nutrition, it's a lot more probably protein if anything. And if I do eat carbs, I try to get them from fruits and vegetables versus pastas or breads. But man, I don't eat perfect. I mean, I definitely, I have a sweet tooth and stuff.
Yeah, dude, that's another one of my Achilles heels is candy, sugar. I've gotten a lot better at it. Yeah, dude, I like Sour Patch Kids. I love jelly beans. I love Mike and Ike, stuff like that. I don't use, once it ruined my teeth and I had to start going to the dentist all the time, I changed that. But man, it was bad for a while. What's your perspective on alcohol?
So I personally am all or none kind of guy. And that's dangerous when it comes to other things like,
Right.
well, anything really. It's a strength and a weakness. So I kind of had some partying days in my early 20s. And so I really got after it. And I definitely got like pulled over for drinking and driving and arrested. And all. I mean, I've done some dumb shit. But at age 40, my idea of drinking a cold beer always, this is no joke, always sounds good to me. Like even right now, cracking an ice cold IPA. But I'm going to work out later. That doesn't really jive with that plan.
Right.
And fortunately, my wife, she likes vino. She wish I would drink more wine. I'm not. I mean, I like wine, but to me, nothing tops an ice cold IPA. I don't. So for me, my rule of thumb is I try to drink. I only will have drink or drinks if I know I'm not going to train the next day, and I train 5 or 6 days a week. I mean, I don't call it exercise. I call it train because I'm just weird, but try to limit to 2 beers. I can catch a buzz on an empty stomach post-workout. I can catch a good buzz off of just an IPA and a half, and I'm giggling and having a good time. And I like social drinking and whatever, but I just don't put myself in those positions very often. My favorite cold beer is after cutting firewood all day at the tailgate. That's good. And then my next favorite cold beer is once you got the last load of elk back to the truck and the cooler's got ice cold beers.
Oh man,
those are my 2 favorite.
That's the best,
right?
Man. Oh yeah, that's the best. No, I was just curious. I'm not an alcoholic, but I do like a beer or a glass of wine. Actually, and a lot of people will laugh, but I don't care because it's my podcast. I actually like White Claw. I don't mind it at all. Beer, I love the taste of beer, especially heavier beers, but not a big IPA guy. But my body reacts weird to beer. It makes me tired, kind of makes me feel draggy. Like it's not a fun experience for me. Like I don't feel like just going out and if I sit around the campfire or like at a trade show and have 2 or 3 beers, I'm like going back to my room to go to bed. And that's actually alcohol in general for me. I like it and hate it all at the same time. So I'm much better off when I don't drink it at all. I feel better. And I was curious, you said you don't do it the day before. Do you feel the difference the next day if you just have 1 beer?
No, but I mean, 1 beer could always lead to 2. I just try to, I don't know. I just set myself up that way where I just make decisions based off of training over the social environment. And that's been a good rule of thumb for me. I told you I'm all or none, man. Like I could be really into drinking if I let my guard down.
No, I admire that about you. And that's one of the things I wanted to bring up. I remember one of the first times I met you was at the ATA show, and I don't remember what year it was. But if I know myself well enough, I was probably hungover, and I looked at you, and you look like you're in shape, and like probably just got done working out, eating a healthy breakfast. Probably were in bed by 10, and I'm like, God, that's probably a better strategy at trade shows than what I just did.
Yeah, but man, I knew Jonathan Hart like a long time, and that guy was the king of.
Man, he can go hard.
I don't even know why he would do it. He'd just go so hard at a trade show. And then he would drag himself into a booth and you just look at him and go, wow. Tip my hat to you, pal. You're here.
You made it.
Congratulations. But no, man, the last time I got so drunk was several years ago. I had a Christmas party for all my employees at the gym and they came over to my house. And I don't know what, but I was feeling it, man. And next thing I know, my wife's putting me to bed pretty early in front of our guests. I'm obnoxious. And dude, I didn't get out of bed the entire next day. Like never, ever got out of bed. I just laid there hung over.
That's the worst, man.
And I just don't ever want that to happen again, man.
No.
I wasted a day of my life, basically.
Yeah, when you're younger, you don't see it that way, but as you get older, you're like, no, that was. And actually, if I haven't had a hangover in a long time, but probably the last one I had, I can feel a difference for actually a few days. I'm not necessarily hungover for 3 days, like in the traditional sense, but I can my energy level is not the same. And then I have anxiety issues, and I'm sure you heard the term hangxiety.
Oh yeah.
That's like, so if the normal person has hangxiety, I have hangxiety times 10. So, the meme I've seen rolling around the internet, it's like when you're out the night before, everybody loves you, and then you wake up and you're like, oh my God, I can't, what the hell did I do? Everybody hates me. That's me. So that's the other problem. That's why I don't get drunk anymore. I just have a couple beers and peace out. I hate that the next day anxiety, but no, I always appreciate that about you. Your level of discipline, it seems like in all regards of your life is pretty admirable. Why do the rest of us suck at discipline? Like, you train a lot of people. What are you telling them to help them structure their life in a more disciplined manner?
Man, that is the question. I don't know if I have a great answer for you, but I think, not to correct you, but I'm not the most disciplined person you ever met. And if I'm putting out that facade, that's fake news. I am superhuman like everyone else. I don't want to sound like a robot, man, but I am wired differently. And I've had people tell me that enough times to where I can be okay with that. I'm wired differently. So don't compare yourself to me, but I am pretty obsessive. And that's how bad I want to kill an elk every year, is where I'm like obsessing over every little thing that I can control to make sure that I'm in a position to get an elk in the freezer every year. And some people don't have to try that hard, but I've tasted failure so much so that it's disgusting to me. I never want to taste it again. When it comes to like literally going hunting for a month and coming home empty-handed, I did that 5 years in a row. And that changed me, because every year I went back to the lab and was like looking myself in the mirror and like, okay, you obviously haven't figured this out. What can you do now? What can you study? What can you read? And this is in an era where there wasn't badass podcasts or YouTube, the internet was just kind of in its infancy, and resources was in a book or on a VHS tape.
Right.
But that really changed me, man, because I am the type of person that loves to be successful. I love working hard for things. I love delayed gratification. And that kind of like that whole experience of sucking at elk hunting changed me as a man to where I became allies with discipline, because even though it sucks to be disciplined, it doesn't suck in the end. And so that's kind of why I have a why. And if you struggle with your why, or you're not having the level of obsession that maybe I have and other things, there's going to be ebbs and flows and days where you're not going to be feeling it. And those are the days where you can potentially move the needle the most.
Yeah, it's hard to. It seems like a lot of us set goals, whether they're short term or long term. In your case, you're like, I'm not going to fail at killing an elk, and that, because killing an elk is very, very difficult with any weapon, but especially with what you choose to do, which is archery. And especially since you have decided that you love hunting like the most easy to access tags. Like you're like the blue collar hunting guy, right? By design, you have made it as hard as you can for yourself, but also are trying to eliminate all the what do you want to call them? Like you're trying to eliminate all the problems that come up in advance, as many as you can, that come up in advance, to give you the highest level of success. But that's why I wanted to ask you about that, because not everybody's goal is to kill an elk, obviously. But having a North Star like that makes your decisions that you make every day, like going back to your beer decision, right? Whatever my North Star is helps me make the decisions from minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year. And my life changed the most, dude, when I started listening to people like you, and others that are goal driven and process driven and disciplined. And I actually wrote down what I wanted in life, like day to day, month to month, year to year, decade to decade. It was a crazy experience. It changed my life. And even though some days I lose track of what those North Stars are, when I sit down, I'm like, okay, like actually today it happened. I was getting frustrated. You know how you have some days where you're like, I don't feel like I'm making any progress. Like, and then you'll have days where you're like, feel like you're on top of the world. Well, this morning I felt like I wasn't making any progress, but then I went in and I just kind of shook it off and had a cup of coffee. I'm like, I'm actually doing pretty good. Like A, B, C, X, Y, Z, you know, I just revisited my goals in my head. I think about
That's
that
awesome.
stuff all the time, man. And so you're very lucky to have that defined of a North Star, though. A lot of people struggle to find that, right?
Yep. And I think before you get too far down the journey, you better have a North Star identified. I think that's a great analogy, and be in love with the process, like the journey, not the destination. I remember that was written somewhere in junior high on the gymnasium wall, and it didn't make sense to me because it was like, no, man, what journey? We need to get there, and we need to get there quick. But in all actuality, the journey is this thing called life. And we have these little things, these little bumps in the roads. We have big bumps in the roads, man. Like we're all going to die, you know, and I need to know that mortality. Like I need to be reminded of that when I'm getting all worked up because I got a contract sponsorship about to expire, and I, you know, or I got my wife, she wants to do, these are just real life examples, by the way, I'm pretty transparent. My wife wants to pretend to be a realtor this week and buy a real estate piece of investment, or she wants to shiplap this wall, you know, all these things don't matter. Right. What really, like knowing what really, really, truly matters in your life and understanding what you value the most, which, you know, we should utilize this time to have people stop. I've talked about my priority list. I've made it. I still have to revisit it on the daily because there's so many times where I put money back at the top of the list. I take God and I put him down at the bottom of the list. And I'm sorry to say, but that's just not going to get you where you want to be. And I think we all fall into that trap because, you know, chasing money is very seductive. Chasing clout, chasing whatever, XYZ, these things are temporary, they're seductive, and they're distractions for what really matters. So having that stuff written down, man, I tip my hat to you.
Yeah, it was, we did it like a pie chart. My wife and I did it together. We were like, you know, physical health, mental health, spirituality, finances, kids, you know, whatever there was 6 or 7 buckets. And we started asking ourselves to write down 1 year, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, and 10-year goals for each one of those things. And I wish I would have kept the freaking piece of paper because it was in our backyard in Bozeman. This was before I resigned at Sitka. This actually
I was wondering.
This is actually what led to me changing what I was doing. And when we did that, dude, it was like, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. It's so stupid to think about it, how such a simple exercise, because it shouldn't take a lot of thought because a lot of these things already exist in your head. You're like, oh yeah, of course, I would love to A, B, C, X, Y, Z in 10 years. If I could just choose the world that I wanted to live in. It's like, well, in a lot of ways you kind of can. But the hard thing, and tell me if this is what you see too, and this is probably falls perfectly into fitness. It's like, I want a 6-pack, right? Because I would love a 6-pack. I've already told you that. But in order to get a 6-pack, for me, it's probably 2-3 months of really intense work, right? And that boils down to 90 to 120 days of intense work. And that boils down to however many hours and minutes and all these things. It's like the little baby steps forward that it's really hard not to get impatient about and then just quit and give up, right? I feel like that's with North Stars, whatever it might be, that's the biggest problem is like we can clearly see what we want to be, but we're not okay with kind of trying to enjoy the really frustrating process to get there. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. We want results now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. And it's hard to see those small wins sometimes, especially with fitness. It's like you look in the mirror, it's like, well, shit, I looked the same thing I did yesterday.
Yeah, no, I think that, the biggest thing for people this day and age is that we're seeing a generation. I'm going to sound old, but you're seeing the next generation and the next generation get repetition with instant gratification, whether it be through a social media platform where you get likes or comments or views, or I don't know, you name it. You get your college degree, so you should just automatically make six-figure income. People have been told a lot of things, and I just caution everyone that if it lasts, I write this down and I look at it all the time, and it's like, what comes easy will not last. What lasts won't come easy. And I literally still believe that to this day. And everything that I've found value in is like, you have to be willing to put the work in. And there's going to be frustration and gnashing of the teeth. And if you expect it to not involve that, then expect it not to last.
I think as hunters, we're spoiled because we're in love with a pursuit that involves mostly failure. I think I was watching one of your videos today. I can't remember exactly what you said, but you basically said that same thing. It's like hunting is hiking with a bow. Like that's 99% of every second that you do it. That's all that you're doing. And I think over time, if you do it enough, you develop so many life skills. And I'm not saying it's just hunters. Like I think if you're a great surfer, same thing. If you're a great whatever, same pilot, it doesn't matter. Anything that's really, really, really hard to get good at, that you have to develop a bunch of creative skills and problem-solving skills, and also endure years and years of failure. I mean, dudes, I always forget. I don't know how to point my guitar is behind me. Same thing, right? Like you suck. Pretty much forever. Congratulations. Unless you're like John Mayer, but you have learned, like that's like your number one passion in life besides your family and your faith is going out and struggling like hell.
Yep. Go out and suck. That's kind of what it is with, the chance of maybe getting something
right
that we're going to eat the rest of the year. And there's a lot to it, a lot of layers, but there's landscapes I would never see if I wasn't going on this journey. I would just have no business being there. Like people just don't go into places like that where some of these elk live. I wouldn't have this wanderlust to jump across state borders and check out other places and locations. And it's super special, man. But I think everybody needs to find their elk hunting. And I tell people who come to my camps, I'm like, what's your wife's elk hunting like? And they're like, what? And I'm like, what is she so passionate about, and what's her version of it? That's the kind of stuff that I like talking about, because if you can get into your wife's thing or things, that's going to make your relationship stronger. I mean, David, if your wife asked you, hey, how many bugles did you hear today, and did you almost, how's it going, and how's the hunting pressure, and you'd be like, what? She doesn't probably ask you those kind of. My wife doesn't.
No, she says, when are you coming home? And can you take the kids? Because I'm leaving.
And dude, that is so real life, guys, because when we call our wives in the middle of a hunt, let's say, the first thing we want to do is give them an update on all the hunting stuff. You know what I've learned is just to say, hey, how are you doing? And then shut your mouth. Yeah. And listen and and she's going to go on and on about the kids, this and that, and what she's working on. And if I let her talk long enough, she'll eventually get out what she needs to say. And then she'll say, how's your hunt going?
Yeah.
But if I'm like, hey, babe, you'll never guess. You'll never believe this. This many hunters were at the trailhead, so I had to zig, and then I zagged. I went over. She doesn't care.
No.
All she wants to know is that I care. And figuring out what my wife's passion is pretty easy. She's super into home and garden TV. She is Joanna Gaines. She just loves making things cool and working with her hands. And she spends a lot of money on it. But you know what? I spend a lot of money on hunting. So if I can just, be there to support her, encourage her, admire her work, understand her love language, hers is words of affirmation, let her know how badass she is. Our relationship's doing well when I'm not slacking.
Did it take you a while to learn that? Did you guys have some struggles? Because most hunting, my wife calls her and her friends hunting widows.
Yep.
The hunting widows get together in September. I don't know if I've ever told you this, Dan, but my wife and I's first date, because I'd lost so many girlfriends over it, I just said, look, here's the deal. I'm not very good at this. In fact, I suck at dating. I'm not good at it at all. And also, I hunt a lot. It's part of my heritage. It's my number one passion. I'm going to do it whether you like it or not. And I want to be upfront with you that September, I don't go to weddings. I don't go to funerals unless it's like someone really very close to me. The month doesn't exist on the calendar, period. How do you feel about that? And she goes, you're going to think that I'm totally like blowing smoke here, but I told my dad when I was young that I would be very interested to marry a hunter someday. And I go, great, we should get along just fine.
You're shitting me. That is so clutch, man.
But I learned my lesson before that because it's very true, man. Like, this is one hobby that can ruin a relationship. And I'm not saying that we have it down. Believe me, we actually almost every day we talk about it still. Like, it's something that has to be massaged and worked on. And I step over the line some years and commit to too much, or vice versa. But I think there's a lot of husbands out there, or maybe some wives as well, that are going, yeah, how do you guys manage that? Like, Dan Staton, you hunt 2-3 states for elk. That's you have kids, right? Your wife has hobbies. Your wife has a life. How do you manage that?
Yeah, I'm still like you. I don't have it figured out. I would never try to act like I do. When I met my wife, I had just opened a gym and I was still working for Deming. So I was filming hunts for that Sportsman's News thing. And I mean, we had been dating for 2 months, and then I went into September, did my thing, which requires no time at home. Then I went and filmed a ridiculous amount of hunts on the road for another 2 months. In fact, I was gone for Thanksgiving, our first Thanksgiving together. I was in Montana filming hunts or hunting. And, so I did set a precedent for her in the beginning. I think that's important to, like, what you did was just like, this dating thing ain't working when I try to like be somebody I'm not. Right. The girl before my wife, I was very serious with, and I thought I was going to marry her, but I put her through 2 Septembers. And that second September, she was like, we're done. This is not, I didn't sign up for this. And I'm glad that she broke it off, because I wasn't going to change, and she wanted me to change. I think so. If we can be honest here as adults, when you get married, if you can go into it knowing that you're not going to change the other person and they're not going to change you, but you guys can still work together to make each other better, holier, not happier. I said holier. There's a difference, and sharpen each other. I think that's the design behind it. If you ask my opinion, but set a precedent and then maybe put them through 2 Septembers before you get on one knee. And honesty is the best policy. I have learned, this is what we've struggled with throughout the years, is I would not pin my hunt plans on a calendar. Yeah. I would keep them very close to my chest, and then I would show all my cards as I was walking out the door in September. And that, bro, caused so much conflict, because that hunting season, my wife still makes comments to this day. She's like, well, looks like your hunting season now kind of starts middle of August, or some years it starts the 1st of August. And then you go October, you didn't hunt that much, but now you're gone hunting here in October. And then now you're deer hunting. Oh yeah. And so it's just like, look, I'm going to hunt as much as possible without you divorcing me. So let's just be honest and figure this out. Like, because I can't get enough of this. And it's been good, man. Like communicating way in advance, even though I can see her face when I write on the calendar. I'm reading her and she's just like, staring holes through me, but at least we get to hash it out upstairs on the calendar and she knows and is well informed.
Yeah, I've learned the same lesson. My wife lives off a calendar, and I do too. Off my professional life, I live off a calendar, but I found I suck at it in my personal life. Like first thing I do in the morning is open my professional calendar because otherwise I'd be just because I'm an airhead. But she constantly is telling me, "Can you please put your hunts for the year on the calendar? Please, just let me know." And the problem is sometimes I don't know. Like I don't know what I'm going to draw, or I've kind of in my older age become a little pickier on which days I go based on the weather and the conditions. So then now I make the decision more game time. Like, hey, honey, weather's good. 5 days next week, I'm out. So that's hard. But I think your point is well taken, which is communication. And then on the dating front, if there's any gentleman out there dating younger guys or whatever, and you're passionate about hunting or anything else really that like takes up a chunk of your year, I learned so many times over and over and over, I tried to pretend to be somebody that I wasn't. And what happens is when you pretend to be somebody that you're not, first of all, you attract people that aren't really right for you in the first place long-term. And the second thing that happens is eventually the real person is going to come out. Like they're going to come to your house. They're going to see an animal on the wall or a surfboard up against the corner. And they'll be like, "Oh, you're a surfer, huh?" Like, "Yeah, I spend most of summer traveling to Mexico. So I don't know if you wanted to see me at that point." But I had one girlfriend that walked into my apartment and saw a mount, and she goes, it turns out she was an anti-hunter and I didn't even know it. And she's like, "How do you feel with animal spirits following you around all the time?" And I'm like, "Well, this is not going to work out very well." That legitimately happened. So my point is I don't know. And I guess it's easier the older you get. I am what I am. I'm not what I'm not. And I think the earlier you can figure that out, the better wife or the better husband you're going to find,
Oh man, guys, listen, that's such good advice. And be who you are. I like how you said you'll attract who you're supposed to attract. Whereas if you put up that facade, you're going to attract what's not intended for you. My wife is not into hunting really at all. Like she could live without it entirely. She does enjoy wild game, right? Like she understands that we got the best ingredients in the world in our freezer. And she understands the version of Dan she gets when he comes home from hunts. My crystal ball is a little clearer. My priorities are a little more dialed and I'm a better Dan. And I think she respects and appreciates that, which is really important to me, that I do come home and be the best version of Dan and not come home and be like, throw my boots on the ground and be like, "Get over here, woman. I haven't had any loving in a month." Like she really understands that I'm more thoughtful. I'm just, I guess I said like a better version of myself because I have that thing. But man, I love my wife because she is quite honestly a lot opposite of me, like in so many ways that I really respect and admire. And just probably like you, I don't know how long you guys been married, but we've been married 12 years and it's actually getting better every year. Like our relationship's getting stronger and that's important in this day and age.
Yeah, we're 14 years this June. And what was interesting is when I stopped trying to act like everybody else to get the shiny new thing, I had this whole idea in my head on what a relationship was and what my wife was going to look like. I thought she was going to be blonde. I thought she was going to, we have this thing in our head. And I always, I'll give an analogy in a minute, but then I met my wife and I was like, to the point where Dan, I was like so done with it. I literally, have you ever, do you watch Seinfeld at all?
Oh, I have.
Do you know what the Costanza method is?
No, not off the top of my head.
Okay.
George Costanza.
George Costanza. So there was an episode where George says, "If every decision that I've made in life has been wrong, that means the opposite must be right." And it's classic Costanza. There's so many stories that I could tell from this. It can be employed in elk hunting. We can talk about that later. Ask John Barklow. It worked for him and I one day, and he killed a bull. But back to dating. I'm like, if nothing that I've done has worked very well, then maybe I should just stop pretending to be what I'm not. And then also, just kind of put all care to the wind. So like when I saw my wife, I didn't even try to get her number. I just gave her mine. I did everything opposite. I'm like, hey, if you want to hang out, great. If not, no big deal. I'm going hunting or something, And when I started kind of having that attitude with it, that's when my life changed. Because then she came in my life, and I'm like, wait a minute, you're treating me too good. You're not nice isn't the right word, because it wasn't fake nice. It was like, you're too real. You're not like dramatic. You're not like the party queen. You're not like all these things I had in my head. But once I kind of shed that facade, that's what I attracted an actual real relationship, which it turns out I actually hadn't even had before. I never had. This is my first true real relationship, my real love. And she doesn't hunt either, Dan. She's killed a couple things with me, an elk and a deer. But she respects it. She doesn't need to do it. She more just likes getting out to the adventure, but she loves the fact that I love it, and she knows that I have to do it in order to fill my cup. And I think that's the other thing I've seen with younger men is like, they're like, I'm a hunter, I must find hunting wife. It's like, that could be the case, but be careful thinking that way, because that actually might not be what you actually need. Because that can be it's great when it happens and it works out. To all those that you've done that, like, claps to you. That's amazing. But for most of it, I don't know that would work with my personality, because I kind of need that time away. Like, that's a little bit of yoga for me. I don't know. How about you?
I feel that. No, I feel that. There was a time where I wish my wife would hunt more, and I got her a bow, and she's killed a really nice buck with her bow. And I think this is awesome. And it was a really special moment. It really was. Because I think it helped her understand a little bit more of why I'm into this. She never had buck fever before, and she got to do, like, there was a lot of positive things, but man, I hunt for me, and that is a self-absorbed time where I need that away from everything that's trying to distract me. And she appreciates, respects that. And I'm actually quite the opposite of what I started, where I'm so glad she doesn't hunt. I don't want her, selfishly, I don't want her to hunt. I want her to have her things, and I'll have my things. Yeah. And then, of course, we have the things that we share. But I respect that, man. And I think that just comes with age and wisdom, and we're getting older. So hopefully we're getting smarter.
Dude, I could not date a wife that was like me, personality wise, hobby wise. And she couldn't either. Like, I'm laid back, spacey, airhead. She's like really intelligent, very organized. Like, we complement each other. She's stubborn. I'm not really that stubborn. And I always tell her, man, you could never be married to someone as stubborn as you. And she's like, and you couldn't be married to someone that's as much of an airhead as you. So we're good.
I love that. That's yeah. And I think that the wife still will always, we can talk about being tough and leaders and all this deep stuff, but a woman, man, really compliments a man. Not that you have to be married, but man, if you do find that life partner, you are signing up for some of the rough edges to be smoothed out on yourself. And I just laugh, because over the last 12 years, I've had a lot of rough edges smoothed out because of my wife, and I'm super thankful for her. And I know you probably can appreciate that.
I got plenty of rough edges to smooth out, buddy. I wanted to talk to you about entrepreneurship, because you have taken a very unconventional path in life. I don't know a ton about your background prior to meeting you in probably like 2009 or 10. But what I do know is that you've started multiple things. And so you have this North Star of elk, right? Which sort of makes sense for all the different things you're involved in. But even before that, like, was your family entrepreneurial? Did like what planted that seed in you to kind of not be like, nah, 9 to 5, not really into that. I kind of want to do my own thing.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if I've been asked that before, so I like that. Yeah, so my dad is a employee type guy.
Mm-hmm.
My mom is an employee type woman for sure. My dad's retired now, but my mom still works, and they're not entrepreneurs. However, my younger sister is way better entrepreneur than me. She's got like this donut shop. It's called Hello Sugar, where she's like franchising several locations, and
Wow.
and she's got a restaurant, and they have like a social media company that handles, I don't know what my younger sister, she's killing it. But for me, I was fortunate to be really into fitness early on, and got a job as a personal trainer at age 18, and I could make my schedule as a personal trainer. I worked for the gym, they got their cut, but I was in control of my schedule. So my very first job outside of stocking shelves in Costco in high school was, I'm in control of my schedule. I can tell my clients when I'm available, and then they can pick and choose. So that probably started it, honestly, thinking, and I just thought of this. I'm just like, yeah, that's probably what started it. Is like, I enjoyed getting up early, training a few clients, going to college, coming back from school, working out, train a few more clients, come home, do homework. Like, I manipulated my schedule, and I liked that control. I was probably fortunate to have some really good mentors in the fitness industry that taught me how to run the gym, from membership to, speculating for new potential and getting leads and generating that, to teaching trainers how to train their clients and run their business. And I immediately fell into management at a very young age. I had 10 or 12 trainers under me when I was 21, and they all were older than me, but I was their boss. So I did get a really good, like, well, here you go. Here's how the business world works. And I took that to heart and was able to kind of work my way through college and grad school. And then obviously at one point or another, I was like, I'm making all these gym owners money. Why don't I just own my own gym? And then that was my first like entrepreneurial, like, I'm doing this for myself. And that wasn't until age 27. But I do believe that autonomy that I had in scheduling was something that spoiled me. And I'd never really I could probably never do a 9 to 5 again because of that.
It's a drug that once you take it, you can't go back, man.
100%.
But I also believe that there's just some people. You said earlier, you're talking about how you're wired. And I always like to make the distinction. There are some people that are wired for 9 to 5. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Like, I have nothing wrong with that. I am not wired for that anymore. I do not want to do that again. I've done it. But I also know that the world requires it. So, but when you're wired like you and I, when you feel that autonomy, it is literally a drug that you're like, wow. So you're telling me that I'm already okay with hard work. So if I just do that and have a little bit of a vision, I can dictate my schedule, which would mean maybe I can go elk hunting more. Oh, maybe I could make money from elk hunting. Now things are starting to make more sense to me. It's second nature to you because you've done it. But most people don't think that way. And that one of my goals with this podcast was to talk to people like you and help spread the wisdom of, for the people that are sitting out there, like teetering their feet into the cold water, but like they have something they want to do. They know they're not wired for a 9 to 5, but either there's fear, there's like real logistical issues or financial issues or whatever. I'm hoping that I can share some of these stories so they can see that there is light at the end of the tunnel. They can create their own world. But again, it seems like, you're what? When did you start doing what you're doing? Like, you started the CrossFit gym happened when?
2007, and then I sold it in 2019.
So you did that for 12 years, and then on the side, you started working on Elk Shape. So side hustle always comes up. Like there's always this bridge and all these people I'm talking to, and I did the same thing. It seems like that's the smartest strategy if you're someone that works at a job that you're not super into and you want to do something else. Do you agree with that? Is that the advice you'd give to somebody that's kind of sitting on the edge?
Trade-offs. I envy those that have a 9 to 5 in some regards, and I'm just going to be real. They punch in, do their thing, punch out, and they're home and they're home. Whereas you and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but David, I could work every hour of the week and still not feel like I'm done or have accomplished what I wanted to set out. Like, so I struggle as a solopreneur, as an entrepreneur, to balancing everything, because as soon as we get off this podcast, I already know the next thing I'm going to work on, the next thing. And I literally have to stop myself to go be a dad and a husband.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to put that out there. Like, if you're going to do the side hustle thing, hopefully you have a job where you clock out and you're done, and that your employer or supervisor does not have expectations that you answer the phone or look at emails when you're off. When you're off, you're off. And if that's the case, man, are you really setting yourself up to create something out of love and passion, and that excites you, that you would jump out of bed, that you would do for free, and then figure out what that is and what problem you're going to solve for people? Because the more people you can help, the more money you can make. Straight up. Work on that when you clock out at your other job, a little bit at a time. That's what I did. I did Elk Shape. It started in 2013, and it really wasn't anything else other than a blog. And it was a place to document my experiences and to maintain a few relationships in the hunting industry.
Right.
But when I started getting to the point where I was running some Elk Shape camps and they were selling out and people were coming to see me to do these things, and I was like, holy crap, I wonder if I could do this full time. And then somebody wanted to buy my gym. I was like, Alicia, my wife, we are selling the gym with your blessing, and I'm going to do Elk Shape for 1 year full time. And I promised her at 1 year, we would evaluate the books, my stress, if I enjoyed it still, and if I would continue doing it. And at 1 year, I was like, it was incredible the amount of growth my side hustle experienced when I wasn't serving any other masters but that. So I'm all about what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think the most couple of things about a side hustle is, one, I don't think it's ever a good idea to lie to your employer about it or keep it for them. I know like the best policy seems to be like, hey, boss or whoever, I have this thing I'm working on. I just want to be transparent. It won't take anything away from what I'm doing for you. I'm doing it on the weekends and nights. That way, there's never any resentment or hard feelings, or they have the opportunity to be like, look, you got to choose between the two. And if that's the case, then you need to make that hard decision. But most of the time, they're going to be like, that's fine, especially in this day and age. Like, it's becoming pretty common. So, like, most employers are going to be like, okay, really appreciate you letting me know. Doesn't seem like there's any real conflicts of interest. I'm like, more power to you if they're a good employer. If they're a shitty employer, they're going to go, you can't do it. You have to do all the things for me. It's like, well, that might be something to take a really hard look at, because in this day and age, you should be able to have a side hustle. The thing I love about a side hustle is not necessarily the thing that, or the chance that it could become something full time, although that's always out there. I just always enjoyed, this was my music for me, several years ago. I just enjoyed having something that was wholly mine, that I could create, that unless I asked for it, nobody told me anything about it. They didn't criticize it. They didn't even praise it sometimes, but it was mine. Having something that's yours, I think we're all built to be creative in some capacity, is so fulfilling. You'll do it for free. I don't know. It's different for whoever, could be, for my wife, she loves to crochet, or she loves to read. I wish I was more of a reader, and I don't like crocheting. But whatever that thing is, it's like, okay, now I can turn off the world, and this is mine, and I'm going to work on this. And every day I'm going to make take little tiny chips out of it. And over the course of time, pretty soon you're like, okay, wait a minute. Like what happened to you, Dan? This is what most happens with side hustles when they become successful. You got to end up making a decision when to jump in head first and quit the other thing and go to the new thing. And that's hard. Unless it's like super clear financially. Most of the time it's not though. Most of the time it takes a leap of faith and sometimes even like a downsize. I know for us, it was a downsize. Like when I left Sitka, my income went down for 2.5 years and I was 37. That's not easy. Our house, we cut our house size in half. We sold our house, rented instead of bought. We lived in an area that I would never buy. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't where I wanted to live. We did all kinds of things. We cut our cost of living down. We just downsized as a whole, all for the better of the longer term North Star that we set based off of some of the side hustles that I'd already started conceiving. But dude, as you know, that's scary, man.
I agree, but I mean, getting the whole squad together and explaining to them, hey, I want to invest in myself. I want to gamble on David Brinker. I don't want to gamble on Sitka. Sorry, like Sitka. I don't want to gamble with Sitka. And I'm sure they're great, but it wasn't fulfilling what you wanted to do. So you probably did some strategy to figure out when to make the jump. And then at some point though, you got to jump. It's not,
yeah,
you just got to do it.
Yeah. And dude, it was really hard for me. And I know it's hard for a lot of people. The biggest thing is obviously financial. That seems to be, there's two things actually, the fear of the unknown and finances. And the fear of the unknown, I could argue, is like most of the time not super real, or it's real, but that's the kind of the fun of it. Like adventure is full of the unknown. And especially if you're a hunter, you love the unknown. Like that's why we do it. Like it's adventure. That's why you want to see the other side of every damn hill that you go to, or go to a different state to hunt the same species. You're not doing it because the elk look any different. You're doing it because you want to go hunt different terrain and different areas, whatever. The point of it is, but the financial part, that can be a real problem if you're not smart about it. And so being tactful about that, and everybody's different. Not everybody can save money to make the jump, but even with that, it comes to a point where you're like, I don't know if you follow Gary Vee or not, but he's like, fuck it, rent an apartment. Like what, if you really want to do this, how bad do you really want to do this? And you can't, it's really hard for him to take it when people are like, I want to do it, but I don't want to sacrifice any of my luxuries. And it's like, well, so you're not making any sacrifices. You probably can't do it that way. If you really wanted to do it, you'd be okay living in an apartment or downsizing your house or selling that brand new truck and buying a used one or whatever the thing is, because ultimately sacrifice seems to be the common denominator in entrepreneurial ventures. You got to sacrifice the now for the future.
Amen, brother. I like Gary Vee. I get him in doses, but his message is always
yeah.
His message has always been unchanging, unwavering. And I like that he doesn't have much tolerance for excuses, because I don't think any of us really should. You get one go at this, and the last thing you want to do is lay in bed after a 30-year career where you didn't even like really enjoy it. I'm 40. I've seen too many people retire and die within 5 years of retiring. It was like, okay, so the majority of your existence, you worked to pay bills. You traded hours for dollars or whatever you did. You never gambled on yourself. And it's not for everybody, but it's for a lot of people. And if this podcast has any substance whatsoever, it's to pull a Dave Brinker and like go into the unknown. Maybe just gamble a little on yourself. Trust that God's got a plan for you. And then go see what if. Because Dave, if you didn't make it in your music career, your real estate career, and all those other business ventures that you got going on, you would have landed somewhere. But you would always know that you at least tried. And to me, that like I'm smiling because I think that's what we're talking about, is that you have to at least try.
Yeah, and the reality is like most people that have a job and they're around our age, Dan, they're probably pretty proficient at that job unless they're new to it. So like the reality is you can probably go back and do the same thing. Like, so really, I found that it was helpful for me and other people that I've talked to about this, just writing down your fear and saying it out loud. Like,
Ooh.
I am scared that if I do this, my family might be homeless, for example. It's like, okay, let's talk about that. Do you really think that's going to happen? Do you think your family is going to let you be homeless? Do you have supportive people around you that would probably reach out and help you? Do you think it's even realistic to think that your business idea is totally going to fail? And even if it did, couldn't you get another job on the side to support your family? Like if you start breaking all these things down and those fears into small chunks, they become a lot more tolerable. You're like, yeah, you're probably right. Like we won't go homeless. That's an irrational fear. And believe me, I'm familiar with irrational fears as a person with anxiety. Like that's the whole problem. So I have to do this all the time. It's like catastrophic thinking isn't super helpful. So you write it down, you say it out loud, and you say it out loud to someone that can challenge you, like your friends, and be like, I am scared of this. And they're going to be like, dude, are you really scared of that? Do you actually think that's going to happen? 99% chance that is not going to happen. Okay, so next, I'm scared whatever. I'm scared that people are going to think that I don't have as much money. Okay. Do you care? Do you like those people? Do you really value their opinion? No, I don't give a shit about that guy. Well, then what's the problem?
I like that. I have a backup plan for Elk Shape, and I'm just sharing this because I want people to know, like I was gonna, sorry, I'm getting texts. I was gonna go try the Elk Shape thing, and if it failed, I was literally gonna crawl my way back into some sort of personal trainer studio back to age 18 and solicit to people that I could train them, and I would train them and trade hours for dollars. But to me, it just was like, okay, that's my like backup parachute, but it just really doesn't sound very sexy to me. So I'm really going to try hard at Elk Shape. But I did have a backup plan, and my backup plan was kind of humbling myself and going back. And then my wife could work more. She's a nurse. She works very little. I've always been able to keep it that way, but she could always so we had things in place, and who's to say that Elk Shape will be around forever? But for right now, man, we are not executing any backup plans. We're still on the primary plan, and we love our everyday existence. We're just every day's new fires to put out, but also every day is exciting because I'm in control of my schedule, and I'm in control of my work schedule, and it's all good, man.
As you get older, do you value that more? Like freedom, I notice as I get older, freedom of speech and freedom with my time and like freedom of creativity is so valuable to me. I will fight to the death for it.
100%.
Like I just, 41 years passed pretty quick. So now I'm thinking, well, shit, 40 more years, I'll be an old geezer in hopefully not a retirement home, but do you know what I mean?
No, I do.
How do you based on what you do, there's a lot of criticism involved in that. There's a lot of haters out there. How has Dan Staton dealt with haters?
Yeah, it's new to me, to be honest. Like I never really got big, had haters. There probably wasn't platforms where you could be so fearless behind a keyboard, but I have a good support system and a small circle by design. And those guys always remind me, like, if you don't, and you hear it's a cliche, but if you don't have haters, you're really not doing anything, Dan. And I hear that and I understand that, but who doesn't want everyone to like them or what they're doing, especially when you're as passionate as I am? You want people to like what you're doing and know that you're real and you're authentic. But no matter what, there's going to be people that either don't like you because they just straight up don't like you, don't understand you, they're jealous or whatever reason, and you shouldn't worry about it. It's not your job. I did have a bout of hate come at me in December of 2021, and I'm sure you're familiar with all that, where I kind of got put on blast for doing Elk Shape and was criticized several ways over. And I got to practice not listening to it and
Did you respond to it?
A few ways. One, with my wife actually, it was on a podcast, and I don't want to get into the details, but somebody basically called me out and just thought that I was using wildlife to make money, like leveraging elk hunting to make money off a resource, public resource, and ruining hunting in general because I'm helping people learn how to hunt better something.
You're such an asshole.
I know.
Dare you? How dare you?
It makes me laugh thinking about it, but my wife heard it and she was like, I was surprised at how mad it made her. I think just because obviously she knows how hard I work at this and how passionate I am. But there wasn't really much. I got offered to come on to a couple podcasts, specifically the main podcast that hosted this guest, and rebuttal. And I'm still proud. I just said, no, thanks. I don't need to come on there.
What's the point? Like, what would be the win here? They already have their opinion. They're entitled to it.
Absolutely.
Everybody that knows me knows it's not true. So life goes on. Why should I care that much about that guy's opinion?
100%. And so, no, I mean,
but that doesn't mean that stuff doesn't hurt though, man. I don't know if I'm a sensitive dude. I want people to like me. As I've gotten older, I care less about what people think, but I still care. It just doesn't affect me as much as it used to. But also, you remember stuff like that. Like it's not like you just forget about it and you're like a sociopath that it just bounces off. You're a decent dude. You're like, you start thinking about that stuff and you start to wonder, is like, what if is he right? No, he's not right. He can't be right, guys? He's not right. I'm not. You start doubting yourself.
No, I totally agree. Like I won't ever forget these words or these things that are typed. But out of respect for myself and all the work I've put in, I control how much room I let that take up, or how much space I let that take up. And just check yourself and be like, man, is this taking up space where other more important things could? Yes. Okay. Squash it, move forward. And if you're ever in doubt, have a small circle of trustworthy peers to run it by and be like, hey, hold me accountable. Am I in the wrong here? And if so, please correct it. Help me make this better. And that's been huge for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, the more you grow, and you're definitely blowing up. I mean, you have a lot of people following what you're doing. Probably the higher chances you have of that happening. But if you listen to the advice of like the Rogans of the world, they're like, screw it. Don't even read it. There's no point in responding to it. I have a habit. Actually, lately, I don't get a lot of it, but I get some of it. I can't remember what happened late. Oh, I don't know. Like during COVID, I was pretty frustrated, and I showed some political cards, for lack of better terms, like not political cards, but more just my perspective on the way COVID was being handled. And this dude reached out to me. He's like, "You need to stop spreading misinformation." And I'm like, "Oh, I remember what I posted. I posted misinformation equals something that you don't like, because sometimes it seems like people label misinformation opinions they don't want to hear, and which is true." And he's like, and it was about the Rogan controversy with Peter McCullough and Dr. Malone, those episodes that he had on.
Oh, that's not that long ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, this guy sent me and he was nice about it. I've talked to him since, at least on Messenger. Like, he's fine. I respect what he said, but he basically told me like, hey, Rogan shouldn't be allowed to talk about this stuff. He's not a doctor and all this stuff. And I'm like, look, man, Rogan can talk about whatever the hell he wants. You can talk about whatever you want. I can. That's called freedom of speech. And people don't have to listen to it. You don't have to agree with it. You can also disagree with it. Yay, America. Like, that's what this is all about. You can't just say someone can't talk about something. Yes, I know he has a huge platform, but the people that he had on those shows were like highly accredited doctors. It wasn't like he was talking to me about COVID. Like, I'm not, Yeah. So anyways, my point was, but when he sent that to me, I'm like, man, maybe that was stupid. Maybe I'm, I don't like offending somebody. But then after some thought, I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just going to keep blazing a path forward. Maybe a bad example, but you do think about stuff like that. It does affect you, unless you're like a total asshole.
No, yeah, if you're human, I mean, But I agree with a lot of Rogan's, crab analogy of where haters are just crabs trying to pull you down when you're trying to get out of the bucket. And I personally, this is what I do. And I mean, I've done it this week and I'll do it continuing on, is like, if you don't get hate, start a YouTube channel. You'll get the comments are the most absurd on YouTube. And we have a pretty good sized YouTube channel and we're very regular. I personally try not to respond to hardly any comments or read them.
Even positive ones, nothing. You just don't respond to anything.
I just think, it's just kind of a waste of time.
Yeah.
The majority of the comments that if I respond to it, it's going to be like a wholehearted question about a specific tactic, technique, gear piece. Absolutely. But anything where like, hey, you're doing it wrong, or I know better, or just a good response is cool. Start your own YouTube channel. It's free to do.
Yeah. It's really
that's
easy.
my answer. And then for Instagram and stuff like that, or Facebook, like I will block people, and I'm not worried about follower count. Like if somebody just I'll give them one or two, but if I see their name pop up and I can just tell like they're just detracting from my message, or they're just, there's something going on there, it's just a one-click block, and I'll never think about that again. It's moving forward. And I'm not sensitive. I don't like block every person. I don't block that many people at all. But and this week I had to block somebody, and actually it was their third comment where it was like, you're not really adding anything invaluable, and your comments always out of left field. You're gone.
You're just being toxic. Yeah, it's just toxic. It's pointless. Yeah, because if it served a purpose, you'd be like, okay, fine. But if it's like, for example, you can give a different opinion. Be like, Dan, I see what you're doing there, but have you ever thought about doing it this way? Like, Dan's not going to delete that.
Nope.
But if you're like, you suck, you're like the worst elk hunter I've ever seen, I'm way better than you. If must be nice, if only I had your YouTube channel, I could share much better message. It's like, start a YouTube channel. You clearly have an Instagram, share your message. Let's hear it. We all want to hear it. How are you better? In fact, you know what's funny? We'd all want to learn from if it was true. If there was a better way to kill an elk, Dan Staton's going to listen to it. He's going to learn from it. And he's probably going to employ that tactic if it's true. But the reality is it's coming from resentment, jealousy, and oftentimes like problems outside of that specific thing in that individual's life that are causing them to write that comment.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't thought much about this, but rarely do you get an opportunity to like confront somebody who's mean on the internet, right? Like you don't know them. They certainly don't really know you. And then just this week you see, like, I didn't even know the Oscars was happening. Like that's not on my radar.
I can't believe that that's not on your radar. I thought Dan Staton would love the Oscars.
I do know now after I saw Will Smith slap a man. And, I don't know the context behind it, and I don't know how it really relates to what we're talking about. But my stretch is that it wasn't too long ago where if you're Chris Rock and you're running your mouth and there's no internet, that's potentially one of the repercussions is being like, at least when I grew up, was like, if you said it, you better be able to back it up and you watch your mouth, because you might get punched in the mouth for what you say or do. Whereas in this day and age, and I'm probably going to sound like an old crusty guy, there's just a lot of, I don't know if the accountability is the right word, but you can kind of get away with being tough or writing mean things and there's no repercussions.
Well, and usually if you respond to them, I've been responding to them. Like I said, I only get a few, at least for now. I'm sure once I launch this podcast, I'll get a bunch, but I'll like fire back at them in a professional way. And usually what'll happen is they won't be a dick anymore. Like if you actually confront them on it, they're like, no, I'm all good with it. I was just saying. It's like, well, could you say it a better way other than, I just think people are so used to scroll, don't like it, resentful, machine gun fire, scroll. That guy looks like he's got a better life than me. Cameron Haynes, what a douchebag. He must be, whatever. He must be poaching those big bulls on private property. Blah, 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 blah. And then if Cam says, wait a minute, calls him out, they're like, no, Cam, I love you. I follow you. Like, I love you. I'm not going to unfollow you. Because Cam will be like, dude, just unfollow me. I don't care. Like, there's a million other people here. Like, I'm going to do what I do, whether you like it or not. I think that is... a pretty important lesson for life if you want to have a happy life. Otherwise, you're just bogged down and worrying about what other people. I always go back to. I hate to reference him all the time, but I do just because I do think it's a good message. It's like when Gary Vee says, "What? Why do you care about something along the lines of caring about the opinions of people that you don't like, or trying to buying things and like doing things to please people you don't even like?" Like, think about that for a second. Like, that is stupid, but we all do it because we all want to be liked by more people. It seems like. Why do you like hunting so much?
Yeah, the age old question. Don't have the best answer for it, but here's what I do know is I feel so alive out there when I'm away from the cell phone, the Wi-Fi, the emails, the notifications. That's step one. It's an escape. There's something primal with trying to look your food in the eye and take it home. I can't explain that part. I won't apologize for it, but there's a desire in me to hunt an animal down and take it home and eat it. So there's definitely that. There's a lot of great relationships I've built, even though I'm a solo elk hunter per se. Like, there's just a lot of that camaraderie and community that I really enjoy, of like-minded people. But adventure, like, I just love adventure. And to me, I find one of the best adventures is kind of living like a homeless man in the mountains, like very simple life, very routine of get up, eat, drink, pursue, kill, pack up, take out. Like, it's rudimentary. It's very much in my DNA. And without it, I don't know if I would be who I am.
Yeah, the simplicity of it really resonates with me. Like, when you're out there and like, it's like you said, what am I going to eat? Where's my water? How am I going to stay warm? How am I going to stay dry? And where's the animals that I'm going to hunt and take home for food? Like, our average day in life, like, we have 1,000 things going on, recording a podcast, answering I'm getting texts, you're getting texts, I'm getting emails, you're getting emails, we're thinking about what we're going to do next. We got to work out. We got to do this. In the mountains, that all goes away because it has to. And you're like focused to like actually what life is about, which is like relationships and survival, which.
Amen. That's the best thing that's been said on this podcast right there.
Yeah. That is so powerful, man. Like, I wish we could share that with more people. I know not everybody's going to be a hunter. Like, it's not going to happen. But I wish more people that live in cities or don't have the opportunity to go outdoors could experience that, because I think it would open their eyes to how, to kind of what life's supposed to be about, that we all lose. But I agree with you. It's my grounding every year. That's for sure. It's when I'm like, dude, all that other stuff is bullshit. Like, this is what matters. Like, I'm here with my dad or my buddy, or just, I love being by myself too. Yeah. A crackle of a fire or a bugle or whatever it might be. Dude, my favorite thing, Dan, that I look forward to every year besides the cliche things, bugles and all that stuff. I love taking a nap on the mountain somewhere where my phone doesn't work, and listening to the birds and the coyotes and the wind. It's like the most yoga moment of my entire year. I look forward to those naps, even if it's in my tent or just under a tree. I look forward to those naps just as much as I look forward to the hunting. I know that sounds stupid, but.
No, it doesn't. It makes a lot of sense to me. And transcending the bullshit is the best way I've heard what hunting is for me. And it's similar to what you were saying, but my biggest moment is when I come home and I do elk benders that are like pretty insane, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I've done a month several times. Is I come home and I'm like fascinated with the sink that has water on demand, and this toilet that I get to sit on to use, and this shower I can be clean at any, like, I come home and I'm like, this is awesome. Look how lucky I am to live with this roof over my head. I don't know if a lot of people ever get that, but I certainly do every year, man.
Yeah, dude. Talk about like we take all that stuff for granted. The other thing that I take for granted when I get home, or not when I get home, the being gone for a long time helps me with is my family. Like I'm so happy to see them. Like, my kids. I'm like you can like I see change in them, even if it's only been a few weeks. Like
Yep.
little things. Like being away actually makes the time I'm there more special. And it's weird. I wrote a song about it.
Really?
Shameless plug for my song Altitude, but yeah, that's what the song
Oh
Altitude
yeah, yeah.
about. It's about the friction between having to be out there, and like needing that adventure, but also like really truly valuing what you have at home. It's hard to balance. We've talked about it plenty, but you mentioned earlier in the conversation about money and how it's really easy to be seduced by it, but you also have to make it, right? So how does Dan like balance the need to make money to live, but not make it the priority?
Yeah, I kind of have a filter that I run things through, and I call it an elk filter. But for your listeners, let's just call it like um, my enjoyment. Like, do I have joy? I'm not happy, but do I have joy in my heart? Filter. Uh, I could certainly make more money than I am right now. I could definitely be way more career oriented, and perhaps I was at one point, but I don't know. Somewhere along the lines, I tried to evaluate what was like the most important commodities to me. And it came down to family, just time at my disposal to do the things I enjoy. So making money is just a thing that everyone has to do, but I've tried to find ways to not chase money, have money chase me, and create multiple revenue streams to where it's hard for me to track where money's coming in. I just know it's all coming in. And I don't want to sound like I'm making millions over here because I'm certainly not. But what I did do is I got with my wife early in our marriage, and I've told the story many times. So the Cliff Notes version is this: she's a spender, I'm a saver. We had separate checking accounts when we first got married. She over withdrew all the time, and we just had to come to Jesus meeting. I'm like, what are you doing? How do you like? I was pretty mean about it. I was like, how do you overdraw? Like, you look online, this is what you have. You don't spend more than that. Like, you don't need to pay $30 overdraft fee 6 times a month. Pretty intense conversation. Come to the realization that we just didn't communicate about money. We never had. We were never going to. We're going to just have our little separate ways. And so finally we joined forces and got influenced by some Dave Ramsey material, which I had someone message me recently like, oh, I see you're a Dave Ramsey guy, mad respect. And I don't really want to be classified as a Dave Ramsey guy per se, because I'm not. I think he's got really good generic advice that a lot of people should definitely adopt some of his principles, but he's also a little off on certain things and that's just another podcast. But long story short is we started doing some snowball stuff where we would tackle a debt, and we would do it with the smallest debts and work our way up. And we weren't making shit, dude. Like our total income was nothing because my wife decided to go back to school after already getting a 4-year degree and going way into debt to get that 4-year degree that she's not even utilizing. And I'm over here starting a gym, not even taking a salary. And we live in this tiny 900 square foot house that I bought when I was 21. So we struggle, but we work through it, man. And at the time of this recording, like, I do have debt, but it's like kind of on purpose debt, if that makes sense. It's not like debt where nothing really owns me. And that's really important. So I like the idea of paying things off or writing a check for them right then and there. And I like driving maybe older vehicles, if that means they're paid off, versus having shiny new ones that depreciate immediately. I like the idea of getting income producing assets that are also appreciating over time. I'm just 40 and still learning, obviously, but I don't like being owned by things.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I like how you said like the time. You value time over money, and that seems to be a common the common answer that I've gotten. I've struggled with this because making money's fun. Like, I've been in areas of my life where I'm making more money than other areas of my life, and I don't like not being able to buy a cup of coffee. I don't like not being able to take my family on a vacation. So like there's a certain amount of money that there's like the bottom, the baseline of what we want. And it changes between person because some people have expensive tastes, but the actual money, it's the great multiplier is what they say, right? If you're a bad person before money and you get rich, you're going to be an even worse person and vice versa. But I agree with you that time is the most valuable asset. But if you can figure out a way, because I actually think if you make the right amount of money, you can buy more time to do the experiences that you want, right? Like
Sure.
if you're an elk hunter, dude, I just put in for Montana and Wyoming the last few weeks, and it was $1,300 a pop. It's not like everybody has $1,300 laying around to spend on elk hunting. Luckily, through my side hustles, had the money to do it this year. But you have to have a certain amount of money to do the things that you want. Is the point? So that's admirable, dude. I've taken enough of your time, Dan. I look up to you, man. I appreciate you, and I'm inspired by all the things you do. And everybody out there should give Dan a follow. I'm sure you already do because he's like famous in this industry. But is there any parting words of wisdom, buddy?
Oh man, well, for listeners, I've known Dave here since probably 2007, maybe possibly earlier. Yeah, 2007. And
Yeah.
I feel like I've gotten to know you better the longer I've known you. And I will say, like, now we're on Dave 3.0 or whatever. I like what the guy I've been talking to the last hour and a half, because you're the realest Dave I've ever been around. And I didn't think I was gonna bring this up, but it wasn't that long ago where like you made it public that you did battle with, anxiety and stuff. And that day was the day I gained the most respect for you in a single day. And I would not forgive myself without bringing this up, because I think there's other people out there who battle with anxiety or depression or we all have our demons. But to me, a lot of people think if you don't talk about it, you're tough. Like in the military, a lot of guys come overseas and they come back and they PTSD, and if they don't talk about it, they're tough. And it's actually quite the opposite. The more that you're willing to be transparent and talk about things that are hard and difficult that people might judge you for, the tougher and more badass you are. And I just wanted to take time on your podcast to tell you how much I respect you for doing that when you did.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Yeah, it's become easier over time. It definitely wasn't easy when I did, especially I think when I first posted about it, I talked about like being suicidal and stuff like that, which did occur. Which, some people are like, yeah, whatever, dude, that's dramatic. It's like, okay, well, you weren't in my head. And believe it or not, I got a lot of private messages
I
at that
believe
time
it.
from people, very prominent people that I can never mention, that are like, dude, I've had the same crazy thoughts. And you're like, you have? You? Wow. I don't feel so crazy now, I guess, Everybody goes through tough times. We all have our demons. And dude, I'm totally fine with it. I talk about it totally openly. I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. I'm trying to these conversations help me so much. Like someone asked me the other day, why you start it's the first question I get when people found out that I started a podcast. They're like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to make money off it? Or like, what's the plan? Like, I have a lot of businessy people in my life. And I'm like, okay, here's the deal. My number one goal with podcast is because by nature of my career path, I have a tremendous network of awesome people that I'm friends with. Therefore, why wouldn't I want to talk to them uninterrupted for 2 hours over the course of a period of time when I can ask them anything I want and learn from it? And that is the God honest truth. It's like, what an opportunity to squander. So I'm like, why? The question isn't why didn't. The question is, why wouldn't I start a podcast? I don't care if there's a billion podcasts. I make my money in other ways. I'll make money doing this too, but I don't need to. What I want is to learn from people like you, and I appreciate you saying that. It means a lot. And that is because I've become more honest with myself over the last several years, and I'm becoming more and more okay just being totally me, and I'm not scared of anything, and it's like very comforting, just to kind of be yourself and just like you said earlier in the podcast, bet on yourself and double down, So
Absolutely.
appreciate that, buddy. We still gotta get out on an adventure someday.
Yeah, I think we should do a swap hunt, and I think you know what that involves. So
It's you got it, buddy. My Roosevelt days might be numbered. But I have I have the areas and all that stuff. The reason for that is in Oregon, they just changed it. You gotta choose now whether you hunt east of the Cascades or west. And I love hunting east of the Cascades more than I love hunting the coast. Dude, sorry to keep dragging this on, folks, but I don't care. This is my podcast. Last year, I hunted Roosevelt. Well, I killed a bull in my 5th day hunting, so I didn't get to hunt that long. But I hunted the rest of the season with my dad and some friends. And I think I heard 6 bugles. But that's Roosevelt hunting, man. It's like it's never like Rocky Mountain hunting. I don't care what anybody says. Yes, you might get a bull that's like crazy, but he's going to bugle like 10 times. You go and hunt Rocky Mountain elk and for 10 days in a good area, if you hear 10 bugles, that has not been a great hunt, in my opinion.
Agreed.
But last year, at the end of the season, I'm like, yes, I killed one. Yes, I have meat in the freezer. Yes, I spent time around some awesome people. Yeah, I saw some good bulls. But I heard 6 bugles. I felt empty. I did not feel like I got the adventure. So I just don't know now so long story short, before this year, I could be like, screw it. I haven't heard any bugles. I'm tired of the rain. I'm going east. And you can always find bugles east if you have good area. Well, now I can't do that. I got to choose up front. So if I'm going to put my chips on anything, I'm going to bet on the areas where I can go for, most likely hear more bugles, because that's what I value that about September is like those rut fests that you get a couple times a year. I actually value them maybe even more than I do with filling a tag.
I'm on the same page. I mean, I live in Washington State. I have my own Roosevelts to hunt for like $40. We're just talking 6-hour drive. I'm on the coast getting rained on, but I just personally can't stomach the idea of hearing 6 bugles in that. I mean, no way, dude. Like that's not what I'm after. I'm chasing bugles. I want to hear them. That's what I get what you're saying, man. So
but
we might have to,
but with that said, that was a different year, man. The year before that, dude, you should have been here that year. That year, I couldn't go anywhere without bugling in a bull and on the coast. Like for the coast hunting, it was one of the best top 3 years I've ever had. The year before that, so going into last year, I'm like, man, this is going to be epic. And then it was like, wah, wah, wah. It was okay. It was okay. I mean, I'm very lucky. I have access to hunt some amazing places, private and public. I've lived here my whole life. I know a lot of areas. I can always find elk, but I know I'm spoiled. I just like hearing them. Like
amen.
Yep. Seeing them's great, but man, when they're doing that. So anyways, let's get you out here. And, cause in Washington, your Roosevelt season's like 5 or 7 days or something, isn't it?
Archery's 12,
it's 12
muzzies
days.
6, rifles 5, something like that.
Yeah. Well, you're always welcome in my camp, man. I'd love to take you out, especially now that I'm probably not going to have the tag myself. Yep. We could just go to all the different places and make it happen. Corey came out here a few years ago, and he left some arrows here, Dan.
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, it's tough.
He's got a vendetta now. He's got a vendetta. So, but let's make it happen, buddy. And I appreciate you coming on the show today. And we'll do this again soon, hopefully.
You bet, man. The pleasure's all mine, man.
Thank you, dude. Appreciate you.